So President Trump says that his tax cuts are a major win for all Americans. But the 2020 mudslinging is now well underway, as you know, and Democratic frontrunner Joe Biden says the only people who benefited were those at the top.
There was $2 trillion tax cut last year. Did you feel it? Did you get anything from it? Of course not. Of course not. All of it went to folks at the top and corporations.
So the Washington Post, which likes to fact check these things, they did that. They kind of demolished this claim by the former vice president. They gave it 4 Pinocchios, noting, quote, most Americans received a tax cut. They may not have noticed it, but that's no excuse for saying they never got one. Here now, Steve Hilton, host of The Next Revolution, and Leslie Marshall, Democratic analyst and Fox News contributor. Leslie and Steve, great to see both of you. Thank you for being here tonight. Leslie, what do you make of the fact that they gave that 4 Pinocchios at the Washington Post?
I'm not surprised, but it hinged on one word. Instead of all, he should have said most. And the reason I look at that is the Washington Post itself, who did this fact checking, talked about in a recent article more than $6 billion reduction across the board, especially for middle income families. And when you just look at the IRS reports in the first and second week of reporting, over 8% reduction, third week over 16%, that averages out, Martha, to about $539 per household. So did some Americans, and a lot of Americans, maybe even, many Americans, most Americans, get a tax break that they didn't feel, as Joe Biden said? Did you feel it? Yes, but did many Americans have to pay more, not get something back, and not feel the benefit of that legislation?
I think one of the reasons that people didn't get as much in the refund is because it was taken out of their payroll tax. So it was taken out before that process began, Steve. Is that your understanding? And what do you think about this story?
Yeah, I think that there's 2 aspects. There's the personal tax cut, and Biden's claim there is flat out false, as the Washington Post and others have pointed out. But the deeper point is actually the ignorance that he showed, and that really applies to the corporate tax cut, which was a big part of the package, because the impact of that is actually to encourage companies to invest more in machinery and in expansion plans. That's what's happened. That leads to higher worker productivity and more jobs. And that's why you're seeing record low unemployment and wages rising after decades of stagnation. That's how American workers are feeling it.
Let's take a look at the CNN poll that shows that 56% of Americans approve of the president's handling of the economy. Obviously, that's going to be a tough data point heading into this for Democrats, Leslie. And Steve, makes an interesting point, because, a lot of the changes that were made at corporations and some of the small businesses where they got to take depreciation on new equipment, they're building new plants, they're doing a lot of things that allowed them to hire a lot more people. So that's why you have such a low unemployment rate in the country, and that's why a lot of people, I guess, are 56% are saying that they are feeling it, in Joe Biden's words.
I think we're going to see that poll change. Let me point out 3 quick things. To Steve's point, absolutely, when you look at stats, but that's not what former Vice President Joe Biden is talking about, and that's not what people vote on if you look at the data. It's not the stats, it's how they feel. You can have record low unemployment, but if they don't feel financially more sound, that's not necessarily going to work going into 2020. Secondly, the economy is slowing down and looks like it will, economic forecasting, continue to into 2020. And then lastly,
slowing down. Yeah, but 3.2% GDP. It was a full percentage point higher than predicted. And most of the economists that I watch on Fox Business Channel are saying, we thought it was going to slow down, but now it looks like it's not.
And they do feel it, Leslie, because consumer confidence is going up.
If you wait a minute, it changes. And then lastly, one big issue that we're forgetting that's part of the economy and under the umbrella of the category economy is health care. And that's something that they don't always
I got to give Steve a last word because I feel like I gypped him. Steve, last word, and then we got to go.
They are feeling it, Leslie, because consumer confidence, which is part of the economic revival, is going up and up and up. People are feeling it. They're spending because they're being hired more, unemployment's down, they got jobs, and wages are going up, incomes are going up. It's all moving in the right direction.
I got to go. We're going to know when they walk in and they pull the lever how they feel about the economy, and we'll see. That remains to be seen. Thank you both. Great to see you.